holiday season can be hectic. While children are out of school, parents are busy, families are traveling, visiting one another, and with this comes also the risks of exposure, which children can be placed and be exposed to abuse. It is against this backdrop that today on Women's Voice we'll be discussing about child protection and safety during holidays. We're going to be discussing about the dangers or the importance of these tips which it needs to look out as parents. Greetings to you, dear TV friend, and welcome to Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television. It is a program that comes up every Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m. only on DMR TV, where we discuss issues, we raise awareness, issues about gender, and why not, we also promote good practice and actually talk about those very hard conversations which some people find difficult having. This moment, it is a holiday period and children have moved from one corner to the other. They are out of school, they have a one-on-one relationship with their cousins, with their brothers. It is important for them or for parents to look out for and protect their children during this period. The topic will be coming up on your screen. You can join the conversation via SMS or WhatsApp on the numbers which you find on your screen. To begin with, dear TV friend, before we take on our very first break, I'm going to introduce to you the guest of today. Greetings to you, Elvis, and thanks for joining us on set.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and it's really a pleasure to discuss with you, especially on gender issues relating to the family and children. So it's my pleasure.
It is a pleasure to have you definitely on set, and also to share or to have a tip of your world of experience. He has a wealth of experience when it comes to gender issues as well, and also child protection and other issues about mental health and safety is one of his professions. I'll go to my left, where we have a familiar face on gender on Women's Voice, which is Otop Joseph. He's always here, and coincidentally today we have two gents joining their voices to talk about family issues and the safety of children. Greetings to you, Otop, and thanks for joining us on set.
Greetings to you, Joyce, and it is another pleasure joining you on set today to talk about this important topic.
All right, it is a dear TV friend. These are the persons with whom we'll be discussing on our talking point. We're looking about child protection. We're looking about children's safety and protection during the holiday period. We know sometimes people feel that as children go to school, parents they breathe in. I think some of them might be stressed already during this period, having to go on their busy schedule and also take care of the children at home. And you know, this period, it brings about a high risk of exposure as these children are idling around during the holidays. Reasons why we chose this topic, what we'll be discussing, and the goal is for us to have these conversations, and at the end of the day, parents and guardians are able to know how to handle and keep their children safe during this period. To begin with, Elvis, maybe we might just throw more light. When we talk about child protection or safety, what are we referring to?
So child protection is actually measures which we carry out to ensure that children are protected from experiencing violence, exploitation, neglect, and abuse. So we are talking about preventive measures which we carry out, and in case children are exposed to violence, neglect, exploitation, and abuse, then we think about how we actually save them, how we actually safeguard them and support them. So we're talking about prevention, and we are talking about a response in case of harm to children.
All right, Otop Joseph wanted to add something. Thank you very much, Elvis. Otop, you wanted to add something about preventive measures of keeping children out of any form of abuse or any form of violence, and they are bound. I think we can talk about physical violence. We talk about child exploitation, child trafficking. We can talk about sex abuse. We can talk about rape and what have you. So these are some of the things which you need to watch out for, because during this holiday period, the risk is higher. Not that during school periods there are no risks, they are there, but these periods we experience a high rate of these kind of abuses, and we are talking about preventive measures which parents can look out for. I don't know, maybe we can just have this conversation. Why do you think it is important, maybe Otop or Elvis, why do you think it is important for parents during this period to look out for or to ensure the protection or safety of their children?
All right, I think it's important for parents during this period to ensure the safety and protection of their children, because abuse and neglect, it can go a long way in damaging a child's mental health and causing a serious injury that might be stuck or might create a stigma on that child for a long period of time. So it's not only left for parents, but then again, if you are talking about child protection and society, we are involving schools, we are involving health centers, we are involving environment. So it's not left for only the parents to create a safe space and environment for these children in which they can grow and they can develop, thereby protecting them from mental, psychosocial, physical, and sexual abuse, and also ensuring that they have access to good education and they also have access to good health, making sure that the resources are put in place so that these children's needs should be catered for. So during this period, it's very important to for parents to drill these children about some of these ills. We know it's the holiday period, and then again, many parents think it wise, considering to our African culture and where we live in. Parents ought to help their parents during this holiday period, considering the fact that they are not going to school. So this period is a time for rest. So it's considered that they are here to, or this time of the holiday, or the summer holiday as we normally call it, it's for them to help their parents at home, maybe to do one or two things as concerns maybe their return back to school and all of that. So back to the importance, I feel like it's important because when a child passes through abuse, any type of abuse, be it mental, sexually, it starts growing up from that child from a tender age, and it's very difficult for it to be erased from the child's mind if intervention, if the people cannot intervene, or something cannot be done easily at that point. So bring your children at this point in time to tell them about some of the ills and how they can be protected, telling them their rights and the importance of them being protected in the society is very important. We have predators out there who specialize, call them pedophiles, who like having or forcing children to do one or two things. So giving them some rescue measures or some measures they can maybe put in place or to practice if they see that this person might cause harm to me, or this person is a threat to my life or threat to the environment in which I am now, then it will really go a long way to help these children. Telling a child that if you see that this person maybe is threatening your life or is threatening the environment you are in, you can shout or call on people to come and speak up. Or you can speak up. Then it will really go a long way. Like I said, it's not left only for the parents, even neighbors too, teachers, or just adults in the society, because these children at this age, they are dependent and they are vulnerable at this stage. So we need people to guide them and people to help them during this holiday period.
Thank you very much, Otop, for being elaborate as to why we need to bother, or why is it important to protect and keep our children safe during these holidays. And to you, Otop, to you, rather, Elvis, why do we think, should we really bother about child safety or protection during this period?
Yes, it's quite important because as concerns children, there are two very crucial issues. You have their growth and you have their development. Okay. And so child protection is important because it ensures the growth and the development of children in a safe environment. And a safe environment, we're talking of one which enhances the child's happiness, the child's health, and the child's ability to reach his or her full potential without being hindered by risk and dangers. So it's quite crucial to ensure their growth and to ensure their development.
All right, we are all, and to ensure the growth and development of our children, I think each and everyone, be it a parent, a guardian, a friend, a relative, a neighbor, we have that collective responsibility to make sure children are safe. And I also want us to kick off this mentality, oh, it is not my child, so I should not care. I think that we are humans, we are one family, not because it didn't happen to you or it hasn't happened to your child, you shouldn't care, or you shouldn't only care when it happens to someone that you know. Now, I want us to go straight to the issues of today. What are some of the things? What would you recommend? What are some of the things that parents should, in an attempt to protect their children or to keep them safe from the various form of abuse which you've highlighted here? What are some of the recommendations you have for parents watching us this moment?
I think one of the recommendations is creating awareness and educating their children. No child is too small for you to teach the child about something, most especially when it concerns their safety and when it concerns them as a person. So at this point, I think because we Africans have this mentality that teaching a child something at a tender age or at a particular age is not correct. At that particular age or at that tender age, that is when, in fact, that's the best time to teach a child something or to tell a child something, because the child will retain it till adulthood. So waiting that your child should get to adulthood or to an older age before you start telling him or her about some safety remedies, I don't think that is proper for parents. Teaching your children some safety tools they can use to protect themselves from these predators and from people who are threat to their lives and to their environment is very important. If you tell a child that if you see this man, or if this man wants to do something to you, you are allowed to shout, or you are allowed to call for help, that is the way protecting the child. No matter any circumstance, every child has the right to be protected. It's a child's right. Be protected by maybe the police or the military or the parents or those in the health sectors. In fact, an adult, it is a child's right to be protected, because like I said, at that point they are vulnerable beings and they are dependent beings, so they have people to hold their hand, or they need people to hold their hand and guide them through this path. So I think parents ought to create awareness and also to teach their children on some of these basic safety tools, most especially during this period in which they send their children to hawk and to sell on the street. There are many people, or there are many adults who see that as an opportunity to take over those children, because they see that at that point they don't have anybody to look out for that child. They see the opportunity that their parents are not around, and we too, with our mentality, any man for himself, God for we all. My child is your child is not my child is not your child, and all of that. If we should take it as a responsibility to take care of these children who are exposed during this holiday period, it mustn't be your child that you must take care of when you see that something is happening or something wants to happen to that child. You should, parents and guardians should try as much as possible to always look out for these children. Even if the child is not yours, look out for them. It might happen to you one day, and someone out there might neglect, or someone out there still might take care of your child. So we should take care, or we should take up that responsibility, we as adults out there in the society, to teach these children about these safety tools. If the parents cannot teach them, and you see that that child has been taken advantage of, you can call the child by the side. You, as just maybe a normal citizen or a normal civilian, seeing that this thing has gone wrong, you can call the child by the side and educate that child about some safety to tell him, the child, that if this thing happens again, this is what you are supposed to do. Either you shout, you speak out, you scream, do whatsoever to save your life at that moment, because human life is very important, and keeping yourself safe too is very important. So I think one of the things parents ought to take, not only parents, adults too, take up the responsibility to create awareness and educate these children.
Thank you very much, Otto. One of the major things he highlighted on is about sensitizing or having conversations with these children irrespective of their age. We know sometimes we are bothered that, okay, these children don't know this. I think that you all will bear with me that the little children that we have now are quite inquisitive and easily grabs the little things that they see. So it is important that once you see these children are already quite inquisitive, they they can't understand certain things, it's important to start having these conversations with them and sensitizing them about some of these issues. We'll be giving some of those tips in the course of the program. Elvis, what do you have to say? The essence of this program is for parents to be able to have some safety tips for their children during these holidays. Otop mentioned about sensitizing these children as early as possible and having these conversations with them, and a collective responsibility of parents, guidance, neighbors, and every adult who is around a child. And here we're not necessarily talking about toddlers. I think every child, be it a toddler, be it a teenager, be it an adolescent, I think in that category, those are people who are very, very vulnerable, exposed to the different forms of abuse during this period. So in addition to what Otop is saying, what other tips do you think parents need to do to keep their children safe during these holidays?
Okay, so the first thing I would encourage parents is to consider planning. You have a plan for the vacation, because your children are not having their routine education, play and rest. Okay. They have a lot of time for themselves, and sometimes some of them going on holidays, they have lots of activities. So you need to plan what the child has to do, what extra skills you want to build in the child. There are some parents who enroll their children into some sports centers, maybe to start learning a particular sport or some other skill. It could be music, it could be dancing. You have to plan for those activities, and closely following up to planning is supervision. So you plan for the activities, you plan for the child's day, and you strive to supervise. Then another very essential thing is to set boundaries. Most parents do not consider setting boundaries. You must set physical boundaries for children. They should know what to do and what not to do, what should be done to them and what should not be done to them, so that they understand reporting channels. You must also set boundaries. The boundaries also involve screen time, because it's one area many parents neglect now. Children are exposed to excessive screen time without supervision of what they are, the material they are consuming, be it from the TV, be it from the internet, and in a generation with Android phones and all the other activities that children are doing. You need to really supervise their screen time, and you need to set boundaries. And on these particular aspects also, I really wish to encourage parents to consider, when you're exposing children to phones or to tablets that they are open to the internet, please do consider having filters. If the child is using an Android phone, you just need to go to Play Store, open Play Store, and just ask for porn filters. Especially, you have a series of them. Download and activate. It blocks certain ads as well as blocks children from trying to explore certain pornographic content, because those are one of the areas where children are exposed to a lot of destruction. So we're really encouraging parents to set those boundaries. And also, you must set emergency plans. In case of danger, what should children do? Who do they report to? Where do they rush to? You must have those clear-cut plans for children. You go to workplaces nowadays, you're seeing maybe there's a fire exit, and sometimes we do not consider extra doors. You have parents who are leaving to carry out an activity, you're rushing to buy something in market, and you lock the children in a house. What if there's a fire accident? We must consider those things. Last but not the least, which I really, really wish to plead with parents on, and I'm really stressing on this because we are having lots and lots of reports, lots and lots of parents who are really suffering from this, is when you have house helps, how do you treat them? Please, parents, be nice to those house helps, because if you carry out something good or something evil, it has a ripple effect. We've experienced lots of situations where children are experiencing a lot of violence from house helps. And it's on this note that we're also encouraging parents to consider exploring technology nowadays. It's very important to have security cameras in your homes, so that when you come back or at your office, you can actually know what is happening. When you bring in strange people to take care of your children, be nice to them, and also strive to have some measure to be able to supervise, to know what is happening in your absence, because a lot of children are experiencing violence and they are even afraid to report. Some of them are threatened with their lives, and of course violence can also come from parents. We have situations of children being sexually abused even by their parents or siblings or other relatives or neighbors. So parents, if you do not have that very close relationship with children, that they can trust you, somebody who is threatening them, threatening their lives, would warn those children not to open their mouth, and he could be sexually assaulting and abusing those children in your absence, and you don't know, because they are also afraid of you. So we're encouraging parents to build very strong, positive and close relationship with their children that can permit children to be open to them, to express their worries, their challenges and their fears. These can go a long way to protect and prevent children from experiencing some of these ills which we've already enumerated.
Thank you so much, Elvis. I'm particularly touched by the fact that one of the key things you talk about is boundaries, and boundaries in all its forms. And I think that I would like to go a bit detailed when we talk about these boundaries. At least in every home now, you'll see there is a visitor or there's a holiday maker, and people come from their different backgrounds, and those children are of different ages. I think it is important to groom these children on what should be done to them or what shouldn't be done to them. Particularly about if you have people coming and they request, I want a hug, or there is this common statement. I think we usually have it when we're little. This is my wife. This is, when children start growing with that mentality already, they start entertaining certain things which they are not supposed to, especially from adults. So I think this is something which I want us as parents or as guidance to seriously discourage, because once we start making these abnormal things look normal before these children, it actually exposes them. We might have adults, it must not necessarily be men, but equally women who might have adults who will ask teenagers to either sit on their laps. You have to let your children know that this is not right. No one is supposed to touch you here or there, or no one is supposed to tell you this or that. This is not right. And it's still about keeping boundaries. One aspect here, he mentioned that one aspect where it's neglected. We have, especially amongst teenagers and adolescents, we give them Android phones with no control. If parents are able to go the same way we download those apps in our phone, it's not going to take so much. Download these filters and put in the phones before even giving them the phones. Because once these children are exposed to that kind of content, curiosity, they might want to start trying, or they might want to have a feel of how it is, and that's how they go. So I think that if we can control that, and one other aspect about these boundaries, which some parents do not think, feel like they're not exposing their children. There's a reason why they put on some a series of programs parental guidance, or they say not suitable for people younger than 12 or 13 and all whatnot. But we are watching our telenovelas with our 2 years old or 3 years old or 5 years old kid. That is not proper. I think we know that financially it might not really be possible for everybody to have two sets of two TV sets, and also we also know in the evening is the moment when everybody comes together. But it's advisable, as you come together, it's better you watch movies or you watch programs that are at least comfortable, at least within the age range of the children that are at home. If you've not done the experience, try it today. Keep watching those telenovelas with those 2, 3 to 5 years old children. They will tend to imitate what they have seen on the screen, which is something which is just to add about limiting their screen time. Sometimes we parents, we are oblivious of the fact that we are watching this series with these teenagers or with these toddlers, and they tend to copy that. Give them what is according to their age, and please respect the parental guidance which is put upon every program. Otop, you might add, or Elvis, or you might have something to add with what I just said, or to continue giving us tips on how parents can keep their children safe during this holiday period.
All right, I think one of the things is considering the fact that the world is changing. We have globalization, the coming of social media, talking about giving children phones and not monitoring what they do on their phones, their computers, or their iPads and all of that. So considering that the world is changing and becoming digitalized, I think it's important for parents to like what you both have said, to monitor what these children are doing, and to teach them too about, like, I'm going back to my point about safety tools. Everything is not all about watching cartoons. You can find child protection programs you give those children, or you download on YouTube, you put on the iPad or their phone. you give to them to watch. From there they can learn. If there is something they don't understand, then they can come back to you as a parent or as a guardian for you to further explain, so that they will know when to do when they are faced with such situations, or they are present with such situations. So giving the child and not monitoring, giving the child an iPad or a gadget and not monitoring what that child is doing, it might have a ripple effect on that child in maybe a few years to come. So it's very important for these parents to pay keen attention to what their children do. Like I always say, being a parent is not a day's job. Before getting into parenthood, you have prepared yourself. You have made a plan for yourself and your children, maybe a 2 years plan or a 5 years plan in which you ought to follow. So being a parent or a guardian, you need to be civil enough, you need to be mature enough, you need to take up that responsibility to monitor what your child is doing. Don't leave it in the hands of how do they call them, nannies or house help and all of that. If you don't teach them, other people will teach them, and they will not teach them the correct thing. So it's very important for parents to be involved in their children's life, to educate them on 1 or 2 things. Everything is not all about school. What did you learn in school? What assignment did you do? Try to have that communication with your child. What happened? Did anyone try to harm you? Did anyone try to do anything abnormal to you today? Always try as much as possible to have that communication with your child. And if your child opens up to you, good and fine. You teach the child, or you tell the child that when next this thing happens, this is what you're supposed to do. Or if it happens in school, you meet maybe your head teacher or your class teacher. That is why I said it's not only parents who are involved in child protection and safety. It goes to the teachers. The child might be bullied by a fellow pupil or a student, or by maybe how do they call them, discipline masters or headmistress. Like I said, it is a child's right, no matter the circumstance, to be protected at all cost. So it's not left only for the parents. It might happen anywhere. It might happen in a hospital, it might happen in a school. So you, who is the guardian at that moment or at that particular environment, you need to take up that responsibility and stand in for that child. You teach that child, or you get back, maybe if you feel like, because there are some parents who say, don't talk to my child, anything she does or anything that happens, don't talk, get back to me and whatsoever. So in that case, you can get back to the parents. You as a teacher, you can get back to the parents and say, this is what happened, let's see how we can solve this, or we can salvage the situation. So I just think that considering the fact that the world is changing rapidly in a fast move, parents should try as much as possible to intervene and to direct their children, to control their children to what they watch, where they go to, what they wear. Give them a curfew. Your child shouldn't go out and you say you can come back at any time and all of that. So parents should try as much as possible to be involved in their children's life and control what they do at this tender age, to a point where they can stand for themselves and protect themselves.
Thank you very much, Otto. Before we continue, permit me take this contribution. Greetings to you in the studio, and thank you for this timely program, especially as every child is now on holidays. I think parents need to pay attention to signs of abuse, and also parents need to look out and always avoid to say that no, this person is cannot help my child. 90% of these abuses during this period are either done by trusted friends or family members and very close relatives. So parents need to be observant enough and also pay attention when a child's attitude changes or when a child is uneasy around a particular adult. Unfortunately, the person didn't write to us and didn't ask. Please, when you write to us, give us your name and where you're writing us from. It is also important for parents to differentiate between secret and surprises. Most often, children are being threatened and like in quotes, keep this a secret, or I'm going to kill you. If children are able to understand, to be made understand that this is a threat and not a secret, then they'll be able to speak speak up. This is from Adeline, writing us from Boyatown. Thank you very much, Adeline. Obvious, what do you have to say to these are two contributors? One is talking about the importance to explain the difference between secret and threats, and then or surprises, and then the other one is talking about parents need to pay attention to signs of abuse. And in this message they also say sometimes abuse is caused by very close relatives or people who think cannot harm our children, and sometimes and I think that's what the person said. Those were the things that highlighted that parents, and when children are uneasy around particular adults, they should also be observant of their children's conduct. What do we have to say as far as that contribution is concerned?
Yes, I'm quite glad to get those contributions, because those are people speaking from their hearts, not from their heads. And if you sift through the messages which they are passing across, it comes to one thing. One of the problems with children, I spoke about growth and development, but there is a gap as far as the development of most children is concerned. Okay. And that gap is an emotional and psychological gap, the absence of parents. Many parents have become so busy that they do not consider the time they have to spend with children. And so children grow with strangers, children grow with strange ideas, children grow with fears and worries. And they have nobody that they can actually trust to express this to. So we're bringing this back to parents. We're bringing this back to our society to consider the centrality of the family, even in the protection of children. One of the very key things, child protection is shifting now. And they are moving. We have the aspect of alternative care. Alternative care is care of children out of normal family parenting, maybe in orphanages, that's institutional care, or perhaps adoption, maybe kinship care. You have the kafala. There are various systems, but child protection is transitioning now around the world. The language now is transitioning from institutional care to family-based care. And what's the reason behind this is because even at the level of these institutions, orphanages and other forms of institutional care, it has been discovered that there is a gap in the development of children because of the absence of parents. And we are encouraging parents to consider spending time with the children, because when you spend time and build a close relationship, it is that relationship that can break every threat. One of those who sent this intervention is talking about differentiating, a secret. Somebody tells you keep this a secret, and sometimes behind that secret is abuse that the child is going to, and sometimes there are threats. What will break that is a certain closeness which the child has with you, closeness that I can open up no matter what I'm going through, and my father or my mother will trust me. We have also, it's commonplace nowadays, dealers who carry children and they force you to say this, and you feel you've made an oath, which of course doesn't work if you're under some compulsion. But if the child does not trust you to open up, the child will stay and sometimes carry monies, and you only discover that the child is being dealt with. How do you solve this problem? One of the essential things is to really build that close relationship. So we're really encouraging you parents, let's try to build close relationships. It's very, very aching sometimes to imagine some of us parents, we live away from children, or we walk away. We're walking in a station that does not permit you to live with children. And then you come and you don't have time to spend with the children, or the children have vacation, you don't consider that they could spend some time with you. The children need you also. They need that parental love. It makes for a part of their development. So we're really encouraging parents to consider spending some time, quality time with your children, time that can make you to really know the child, to really understand the child's challenges, time that can permit the child also to open up to you, to express certain challenges, because children have to learn. We know sometime in the past, sex education was a taboo, but now we've discovered that it is important to give them the education and let them know the right thing. If you do not teach them, someone else will teach them. So we're really stressing on the aspect of parents really being close and present to children. Then the last point I want to talk about also is, child protection. Now we are following a child-centered approach. You do not think that you have activities you think is for the good of children and you do not consider them. No, sometimes you need to be able to listen to children.
True.
Even if it's holidays you're planning, what would you like to do? A lot of us, we suffered a lot in life. We have 3-5 degrees because we do not know what we wanted. we just felt education was, a certificate based. We're going for those certificates. But there are many people who are succeeding by skills. Is it in the world of sports? Is it in the world of music? Sometimes listening to children, you could get their interest. And when you get a child's interest and you invest in it, trust me, the child doesn't have time for lots of things which are risk. They put their full energy with the support of parents. So let's consider this child-centered approach. Try to talk to children, try to get their opinions and educate them on why maybe a proposal from the child may not be the best. At least the child understands why, not just being told no. So it's very important we listen to them and we try to help them, guide them to make the right choices in life. Then we are helping them to grow. We're also helping them to develop maturely. So those are some very essential things to consider.
Thank you very much, Elvis. It is important to have this conversation with these children, to have to understand what they want and also what they need. It's going to go a long way to help them not only open up to you, but also help them grow. And it is important, we cannot really overemphasize on the importance of parents spending time with their children, as it goes a long way to help these children grow, not only physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And just to take this other contribution, greetings to you in the studio. Interesting topic there. I think parents during this period should avoid moments where children and adults will have a one-on-one moment. This is from Nell, writing us from Moliko. I don't know how the one-on-one. I don't know if you're clear on that. According to his message, parents should avoid a one-on-one moments or occasions where an adult and a child might be left alone. That's my understanding. Does that affect?
Yes. Actually, when working with children, there's what we call consent and assent. Sometimes before carrying out certain interventions with children below 18, there's what we call consent. You get the consent of the parents and the consent of the child if the child is above 15 years of age. And if the child is below 15 years of the age, you get the assent of the child. So I guess this intervention is coming from that perspective of sometimes there are people who come, they are carrying out activities with children without even the consent of the parents. Sometimes if a father knows that, okay, this person wants to talk to my child, and just the knowledge of it, you will be able to plan a safe space. It could be a psychologist. Sometimes you have a child who's going through a problem, you think this child needs a psychologist, and that one-on-one is an occasion for the psychologist also to exploit the child. But if you have those things planned, if you understand you're giving your consent, sometimes you give consent with conditions. If you are to sit with my child, you're going to sit in an open space. If you're to sit with my child, maybe in a church, somewhere where the child could not be exploited. Because like we said, somebody sits and maybe you start fondling a child, you start touching a child, that's already sexual harassment. So we must guard those things. I'm really happy with this intervention because it shows that parents are becoming more aware of dangers. And of course, parents and those who live with children, they are aware of these dangers. It's good that we have these conversations around this topic, bring up all of these personal experiences, because we learn from personal experiences. We can always build the child protection framework from individual experiences. So it's very important to watch who talks to your child and where, and set boundaries around that.
Okay, I'll take on these other contributions. Greetings to you, Joyce, and fellow panelists. Interesting topic. Thank you very much, particularly about the points where you mentioned about creating boundaries. I sincerely appreciate that, because to be honest, I've not had time to go through what my children watch on their phone or the moments when they watch television. Thank you very much. This is from Auntie Christina, writing us from Limbe. Now there's this other message here. Greetings to you in the studio, and thank you for this topic. I also think that parents need to be sensitized on not protecting their family names. Sometimes these abuses are done and children are not able to speak out because they either threaten them that if they say it, they are going to destroy their family name. Maybe because the act has been committed by a close relative or a family member. the person then signed the message. I don't know what we think about that as far as this topic is concerned. Some parents need to be sensitized about not always wanting to protect their family name. Otto?
Yeah, I think I really love that contribution. You might think that you are protecting your family name, you're protecting the child, but you don't know that you're causing a great damage, most especially to your child, because the child will grow up knowing that you allowed it, and that will be like it will cause a lot of things, and the child will make wrong decisions in his or her life. Protecting that's why I always believe that you don't trust people with your children, even if the person is your blood sister or your blood brother or whatsoever. Yes, the abuse might not come from them directly, but people will visit them, like maybe their friends or their neighbors. People who visit them can be the predators and people who can cause harm to your children and all of that. So I think when abuse is involved, I don't think protecting your family name is something that should even be discussed, and that you should take actions. You should take the actions, because you will not say it's the devil that was maybe in your head, or is the devil who made you to do a particular sort of thing. You are an adult, you know what you are doing and the repercussions of what you are doing, and the repercussions that will come from what you are doing. So parents should forget about these family ties, most especially when it comes to your children, because if you neglect it, if you say you're protecting your child's name and you don't want it to escalate, or you don't want people to see your family as a bad family, like I said, it will not have an effect on you, or will not have an effect on the family you are trying to protect. It will have an effect on your child, because the child will grow up knowing that my parents allowed this, my parents knew about this, but they never did anything, and that might cause a rift between children, or a child and his or her parents. The child will not want to maybe have that interaction or that communication with his or her parents, because they know that even if I have a communication with my parents, nothing will be done, or they will just hear and say keep it, forget about it. As long as it concerns the family, we ought to protect our family or protect our family name. So when it concerns your child, I don't think parents should joke with their children. Don't joke with your children, because at the end of the day, they will be the ones to suffer, or you will be the one to suffer as a parent. So when something like that happens, take the bull by the horn. Charge the person to maybe court, or do the needful, so that next time when the person or that family member wants to think of doing that thing, he will think twice again, or he or she will think twice before doing that to your child. So I don't believe in that stuff of protecting my family name and all of that. Correct? If your brother does something to your child, or your sister does something to your child, correct them, or give them a warning that next time don't do this to my child, and don't do it in hiding. Like, have a conversation, like a civil conversation with maybe that person who committed that crime in front of your child, so that your child will be able to know that, oh, I can take this to my parents and they will intervene and they will do something about it. So I think parents should the raison d'etre of this is that parents should not neglect their children, or parents should not play with their children, most especially when it comes to their safety.
All right, thank you very much, Otop. Elvis, what do we have to say with our last contribution, which we had here so far on the program, related to our talking point that parents should be sensitized on the need to look, or to throw away that mentality of wanting to protect their family name, especially if the abuse is done by someone within the family circles?
Yeah, from a knowledge-based perspective and from career experience perspective, I wish to safely say this. Silence and secrecy is a fertile ground on which abuse grows. I'll repeat this. Silence and secrecy is a fertile ground on which abuse grows. I would safely tell you that this the person who shared this is also talking especially from the point of view of sexual abuse, in other words, rape. And for those who do a lot with GBV, for those who have experiences with GBV and rape especially, when you're managing those cases, one of the things you do is, at the end of it, the perpetrators have to be exposed to the community, because when you do not expose the perpetrators, they have that safe ground and that fertile ground to continue abusing other persons in the community. And like we've rightly said, it's not about whether it's your relative. So come to think of it, what if it's your brother that actually rapes your child and infects your child with HIV? You would say you want to protect your family
or even
and
get
destroy,
the child pregnant.
and destroy a generation. Gone are those days when we consider taboos and we continue to give fertile ground for a lot of violence, a lot of exploitation, a lot of neglect to be meted on children. These are the days where we have to confront the evil by its name, and we must pick it by the horn. So please, dear parents, when you actually have situations of such persons, even if it's your own family member, please bring them to the forces of law and order. Expose them to the community. Communities will communicate. Let the people know that such a person, you need to be afraid of the person. You need to, be very careful when walking around such persons, because they have those tendencies. So please, let's forget about the olden days, the whole aspect of taboo. If your child is raped, that's only what you know. You don't know what has happened to other people it's not been said. Worse things may have happened. So please, let's expose them.
Definitely, we need to expose them. And he did mention silence and secrecy are breeding grounds for abuse. So we know sometimes they are scared, sometimes, but those fears are not equivalent to the dangers which you are keeping not only your children but society at large. It is good to speak up irrespective of who the person is. It's good to expose the person such that he or she might stop this abuse. Imagine your child has been exploited or has been abused physically, or it's been taken by a relative and maltreated somewhere else, and this person has a habit of taking people's children and going, and you decide to cover up. Imagine how many other children's lives will be ruined by this same person. And let me take out this other contribution. Thank you so much for today's topic. I just want to ask, how then can we be able to keep our children safe? I know we've talked about discussing with them. What if the child is very quiet and not the open type? How do you start discussing with this kind of a child? That is a question which one the person is talking about. How do we engage conversations with? I think it's something which we're going to take elaborately subsequently on this. I think we've had that before here.
Yeah, we have.
How to discuss with, probably we're going to go back there, but maybe we'll just do it briefly. How to have these conversations with children who are perceived or who are naturally the very quiet or shy type.
Okay, Joy, so one of the things I wish to say is, conversation is quite dynamic, and sometimes you listen not to what is being said but to what is not said. It's a core at core. Sometimes it's a heart to heart conversation. If this person is quiet, why is the person quiet? Is the person an introvert? And if you have somebody who is an introvert, I bet you one of the best things to do is spend time with them, even if it's to spend the time and not talk with them. When they notice that you're with them and not talking, just being with them, observing them. One, you, the parent, observing an introvert child, a child who is just quiet and is not talking, you are also learning. You are also observing certain things, just the fact that you're spending time with that person. But I bet you, even the introverts, trust me, psychologists have made this clear, introverts are also people with emotional wants. Sometimes it's just that somebody has not understood them. If you spend time with the introvert, even saying nothing, just making the person know, I care about you and I want to be with you, trust me, at some point they themselves will be the people who strike conversations. I'm not talking just from a psychological perspective or from the perspective of knowledge, but from the perspective of experience. I'm one person with a noisemaker, that's true, but I've also learned to interact with everybody around me. And I'll tell you that put me with an introvert, I'm fine. Put me with an extrovert, I'm fine. Put me with an introvert, I'll give you knowledge. Put me with an extrovert, I'll give you knowledge. So spend time with them, observe them. When they feel observed, loved, catered for, they would open up. They will strike the discussion. So that's it.
All right. Also, Joseph, want to add more on that? I think we had this conversation some time ago on how to have a conversation with persons who are close or perceived as close persons.
Yeah, to add to what we have said, I think introverts are like people with special needs. So you need to often communicate with them. When we talk about communication, parents, we are talking about a dialogue, not monologue, because there are some parents who you bring your child, let's discuss, and from Genesis to Revelation, you're the one talking. You don't allow your child to say anything and all of that. And when you want to get information from a child, maybe from my own personal experience or from what I saw my parents doing to others in which they brought up, don't ask a direct question. Always be tactful when you want to discuss with an introvert, because they have this defense mechanism, and they think they have this fast thinking yes, this fast thinking faculty that before you even finish the question, they know what you want them to tell you, or they know what you are asking of. So before you discuss with them, be tactful. Don't ask direct questions. And also dealing with introverts too, going back to the points that we should be mindful of the kind of videos children watch. I talked about child management videos. You can download these videos and you give your child to watch, and if the child gets to know or gets to watch those safety remedies, the child come and meet you, mama, papa, this thing happened to me one day, or I saw someone doing this thing to this person. And from there, the child will start opening up. You don't even need to stir a conversation. The child will start opening up and start talking without you even asking. So I think one of the ways to deal with introverts and to get information out of them is to get these safety videos on how to protect themselves and how to stand for themselves. And there they can, and when giving them those videos, don't just give them to watch. Give them an assignment. When you watch, I will come back and ask you what you have learned or what you watched in this video, and there the conversation will start and they will start opening up. So when you give them these videos, don't just allow for them to watch and keep it. Give them an assignment that after this time I will come back and ask you what you saw in this video or what you have learned from this video. So I think that's the best way to deal with children who are introverts. Have a communication with them. When we talk about communication, a tactful communication. Most, like I said, introverts are like children with special needs, so you need to be very careful how you deal with them, because they, like I said, they have that defense mechanism. So if you are not careful, they might keep it as a secret for their entire life, and they might never tell you what they are going through or what happened to them.
Thank you very much, Otto. Definitely, if as a parent you are observant, I know that will require a lot of time, which it has no price. I think you should prioritize bringing up your children, spending time with your children. If you have, it's by nature, some people can just be close, but I think there are different methods which you can do to make them open up. Elvis highlighted something. Even just go there and don't even say anything. Just be with them. Just show them they are being loved. You care for them. Or there's another method which parents we expose our children to these phones. Definitely, if we put some of those content, it might take a bit of work for you to identify some of these videos. But I think some of these United Nations agencies which handle different aspects have some of these already made cartoons with these lessons and messages. I think if we give that child like an assignment, can you watch this video and tell me what is in it? Practically, when the child will be explaining, it's that the message has already gotten, and then you can now get into these conversations. Maybe, didn't you see this? How was it? You start gradually seeing where this child finds interest. And I think you can also initiate conversations once you see where these children find their interest. It could be music, it could be basketball, it could whatever. I think if we take a day, I mean, okay, you've been going for sports, let us go together. You start creating that one-on-one. Now, before we go, I just want us to wrap up this conversation. Hopefully, we could take it further, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. As a whole, Elvis, we've talked about these different tips, and I want us to look at this a typical family which is not financially viable to have this video, to expose this child to this video, or to have two screens. And also, for example, where you can watch your telenovelas on your own and maybe your kids watch theirs on the, how would you really, what would be your advice globally to these families which are not which might not fit in to have these basic necessities that warrants them to be able to control or control? Because I think one of the issues we have here is the exposure or the lukewarmness or just the carefree attitude which we've given to some children. What would you recommend to a family that cannot afford all of these needs? How do they go on with their own level of protection for their children?
Well, Jess, I would have loved to ask you if you were more intelligent or if you think you consider yourself wiser than your grandfather. And why would I ask you this question? Because how did our grandparents grow? What is, authentically African style, lifestyle, and growing mindset before we came to this, globalization, digital age technology? We grew up to know about storytellings, to know riddles, and in philosophy, that is how African wisdom is passed.
Yeah.
Parents sat together and they passed on oral history to children. They gave them stories with moral lessons, which we are picking up today. But it's sad, and there's this picture which people always update on their status, and sometimes I'm like, do they really think about these things which they update? And it's trying to give a divide between cultures. In the past, children sat together maybe with one TV or discussing, and nowadays people sit together and each person with a TV, each person with a phone. They are together, no communication is taking place. So it comes back to the fact that as African, even in that moderate home, what you want to call maybe a peasant home, which I would prefer to call a pleasant home, those parents can sit with the children. They can pass on moral lessons. You can teach the children these same riddles. You can tell them stories that pass across good messages of African culture. And trust me, most of them will grow to be wiser. There are many children today who have knowledge, but they are not wise. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. We are talking about wisdom here. Give your children the basics and the most important which you can afford, and which is the best which you've gotten from parents, from generations that have been very successful despite their limitations of technology and globalization. And I bet you would still grow very wonderful families. You will still bring up children who can stand the test of time into the society.
All right, thank you very much, Vis. And to you, Otop, we know, I'll give you another dimension. We know that it is a holiday period and parents are sending out their children to assist them, be it at their shops or market. And these children are also exposed to risk. We know if we had our way, we would tell parents, don't send your children to the streets to hawk. Now, how would you advise these children or these family members who, out of no fault of theirs, have to fend for themselves? What would you be their safety guides or tips during this period?
I think during this period, parents should, if you wish or if you want to send your child out to hawk, you can send your child to hawk in same town that you are, because there are some parents, you stay in Tiko and you send your child to come and hawk here in Buea, and you give the child an ultimatum that if you don't finish this bucket of snails or if you don't finish this bucket of egg, don't come back to the house. So to keep your child safe, let your child hawk in same town that you are. There are various quarters, and you should tell your child the kind of quarters or the kind of people they are to answer to or to sell to, because there are some people who don't want to buy, they just want to take advantage of your child and exploit your child. So parents, I think, should, if you want your child to help you during this holiday period, then do that in the confines of the town that you are or the city that you are. Don't stay in Tiko and you send your child to come and hawk here in Buea. That will go a long way to keep your child protected and safe.
All right, thank you so much, Otop and Elvis. Before we let go of you, would you just briefly give your message in the course of this program, taking into consideration all what we have spoken? What advice do you have for both parents and their children during this holiday period as far as their protection and safety is concerned?
All right, I'll begin. What I can say is that parents should have a conversation, have a communication with your child, and be attentive to the needs of your children. Pay attention to your children. If you see your child behaving abnormally, more than the way he or she normally behaves, as a parent, you ought to ask questions and you ought to find out what is happening. So during this period, like I said, no matter the circumstances, one of the right of a child is that he or she must be protected no matter the circumstances. So parents should take up that responsibility to provide basic needs for their children, have a communication with them, and most especially pay attention to them.
All right, thank you very much, Otop. And to you, Elvis, what message do you have for parents and guardians as well as the children with regards to children's safety and protection during this holiday period?
Yeah, so closely following to what Otop said, parents, please spend time with those children and fill that emotional gap. Tell them you love them. Do their hair. Take care of them. Do not wait where we are avoiding, situations in which you meet this 28-year-old girl and you tell her you look good and she's like, I'm blushing, and then she's scratching her hair, and a lot of things are going through because the parents have never told the girl you look good, you're beautiful. Please let people come to add compliments they have been so used to. We should come to tell people that I love you, and they have heard that 1,000 times from the home. It gives them that strength, even in the absence of wealth, in the absence of a certain level of education, that they feel loved means a lot. So please, parents, spend time with them, show them that love, assure them that you love them, and trust me, you'll see very wonderful children.
Thank you very much to you, Elvis and Joseph, for your wonderful contributions, and to all of you who wrote to us, be it via SMS or WhatsApp. We thank you for joining us. We can take the rendezvous again with us next Thursday for another edition of Women's Voice. In the meantime, dear TV friend, we live in the company of more interesting programs coming up next on DMR TV. From my end to yours is goodbye and stay blessed.